All right, moving on to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from my good friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again, who asked me to do a pretty fascinating one. He asked me to do a pretty cool crossover, and this one is between the Question and the Shadow. As always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon where you guys can hit the 3rd tier. That'll allow you access to do so. So, yeah, let's get into it. So this story basically is... what this story is about is the Question is on a case. And he's basically been following a case that involved a mafia family who had been peddling drugs through children. However, when he thinks he's got all the leads taken care... Like, he's figured all the leads... he goes to break up this warehouse that had been hiding all these kids who have been kidnapped and essentially brainwashed into selling drugs to other kids. What he finds is just an all-out massacre. Like, the entire mafia family has been slaughtered. They've just been brutally killed left and right, and the kids have already been saved. And Vic is just like, what the hell? Who got here first? I mean, I believe just the efficiency would be Batman, but Batman doesn't kill. And he's like looking at the bullet casings and whatnot, and he's like, there's no way. There is no way someone could have gotten in here without me even noticing. You know, someone got past me to do this. Someone, not only that, took on all of these guys and didn't even break a sweat. Like, who could honestly have that kind of skill that isn't Batman? Jason Todd, I'd almost say Red Hood, but even he's a little too loud for this. So Vic just essentially start building a case of finding out who was behind this, like who was really like the person who caused this bust. He's like examining shell casings and whatnot, and he's like tracing the type of gun they would have. He does find that was obviously the amount of rapid fire from these pistols. The person was carrying two guns. And eventually, like, he's putting the pieces together, and he's like, no, there is no way. I may be a conspiracy theorist, but there is no way that these came from the Shadow. See, in here, the Shadow is treated as like an urban myth, even more so than Batman in Gotham in his early days. The Shadow has been... the Shadow was big in the 30s and whatnot, but he's supposed to be long dead, or is he? So the question now begins... who questions the Shadow? So he begins his hunt down for the Shadow, like to figure out like who's is he real, or is he is he alive? Was he ever dead? He's seen a lot of amazing things, so there's too many questions for the Question. So Vic Sage starts his investigation. He starts like pulling together all these people, and he's heard the Shadow has like a network of people who work for him. So Shadow starts finding them. He finds a cab driver who was rescued from a mugging and has since been connected to several deaths. But there's never been anything to pin it on him. So Question goes to him and is like, "Hey, who saved you that night in New York?" And he's like, I don't know what you're talking, pal. And he's like, "Was it the Shadow?" And he's like, "You gotta stop. You need to stop asking questions because this is an answer you don't want. So the question is just furiously going through and trying to find out all of these pieces. He's just going through and trying to get deeper into this network. And as he slowly realizes, this is a deep network. The Shadow has who doesn't work for the Shadow? There are cops. It's not just cops. It's people in political power. It's like lowlives. It's everyone. This network is just so fucking massive that it's really hard for even the Shadow to. Even the Question to really pin down, because even he's like, this is a massive web. and I don't know where to start. But as you would expect, the more cages Vic is rattling, the more he's starting to attract the attention of someone who you really don't want the attention of. So one night, Vic's at home. Vic's in his hideout, just kind of like making a big one of those big spider web walls, like all those that big thread wall, and he's just like trying to connect the dots, and it's almost getting to a maddening point because he's like, I still don't know, I don't know how big this is, and I still don't know if it's like just his network, if he's still alive or not. Like, I don't, like, he genuinely thinks like maybe this is just like followers of the Shadow that are just following in his name. But that night, he feels like a presence has entered his room, and he's like, not even Batman can get in here. Who the hell could honestly like sneak into like my house and not me knowing? So he starts hearing like someone just cackling in the darkness, and he's like, who goes there? And he's like, who goes? The Shadow. And out pops arrives the Shadow from the darkness, and he's like, and Vic is like, I knew you were real. Now, I don't know, I don't think you're Lamont Cranston, or maybe you are, I don't know, but, I have to get the answer. And he's like, you're like a dog chasing a car, Sage, and he's like, you know who I am? And he's like, it's, the Shadow knows. And he's like, well, the question is about to know now. So Vic goes at the Shadow, and they fight. And while Vic is a pretty good hand-to-hand fighter, he realizes that the Shadow is just outclassing him. And he's like, if I really wanted to kill you, Vic Sage, I would have used the guns. But instead, I'm just going to leave you with this. Stop trying to look for me. I work from the Shadow works from the darkness. The Question can do the same, but as one of my servants would say, stay in your lane. Don't come looking for me ever again, Sage. So, after kicking the shit out of the Question is just like, well, in one way or another, I got my answer. Whether it's Lamont Cranston or someone else, I don't know. But I do know this. The Shadow lives. So, alright, there you go, guys. That is... it wasn't like I wanted to do this as, like, not so much a straight-up crossover, but more like a almost like an X-Files conspiracy-type story, with the two of them playing this cat-and-mouse game. So, Chris, thank you once again for this Patreon request, as well as continued patronage. And you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this story? Just comment below, let me know, and like I said, if you'd like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the 3rd tier, and you can start sending me requests. But other than that, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.